It is time for this morning's political breakfast after what analysts are calling an extraordinary comeback for President-elect Donald Trump. We're live with Democratic strategist Tharon Johnson and Republican strategist Brian Robinson just hours after the Associated Press first called the presidential race. With wins in Georgia and other battleground states, Trump gained more than the 270 electoral votes he needed to beat Vice President Kamala Harris. Brian and Tharon are here this morning. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Let's begin with you, Tharon. All predictions are off. What happened here in Georgia first in terms of the Democratic Party?
I think that the Republicans definitely did an outstanding job of having a strategy to not only win Georgia, but apparently to win the country as far as getting the most votes. But Lisa, I'm just going to get through this quickly. What really comes to mind, and I wrote down 3 words that start with the letter L. Number one, we got to accept this loss. We got to accept that what happened, and we got to regroup. Second thing we got to do as Democrats, we got to listen. We got to listen to the voters. We got to not attack them, not make them feel sort of intimidated or that they're out of touch. We got to listen to them. The third thing we got to do, Lisa, is we got to learn from this beatdown, this beating that we took politically, not only in Georgia but across the state. Looks like we're going to lose the U.S. Senate, and we're trying to hold on to the House. And then the fourth part is going to be the hardest one, Lisa. We're going to have to look inside. Democrats are going to have a very, very uncomfortable conversation about who we are, who we represent, and we're going to have to have a conversation about leadership. And then lastly, we're going to have to lead. So we got to do all those 4 steps first, Lisa. Take the loss, listen, learn, look inside, and then we can lead. And I think that's what we got to do as Democrats. But the next thing that is going to happen is that it was very clear to me last night. It wasn't clear to me before that voters expressed their concerns about the economy. They expressed their concerns about President Biden and Vice President Harris. And I thought the country was ready, but apparently the country was not ready to be supportive of a black woman or a woman in that fact leading this country. So those were the things that stuck out to me. And we can get into more speculative metrics once the numbers come out. But that would be my advice to Democrats this morning.
Brian, what did last night signal to you?
That we are undergoing a realignment in this country, and it is striking in its speed in which it's happening. I knew it was happening. I didn't know that the numbers would happen as much as they did in this election. One example, we saw Latino men go from a group that voted 25-30% margin for Biden in 2020 to one that voted 10% margin for Trump. We saw black men did in fact hit the 20+ mark in exit polling in votes for Trump in Georgia and in North Carolina. That's extraordinary, and it has huge implications for the future of politics in America, but also in a very multicultural state like Georgia. We're a majority minority state now in our population. So this could keep the Republicans competitive in this state long after Democrats thought that Republicans could be competitive because they thought the demographic change would automatically bring Democratic control. The rules of the game have changed now. Republicans have a pathway to keeping majorities in the legislature for many more years to come than I had ever thought. Republicans only lost 2 seats in the legislature last night. That's an extraordinary win. Both of those had been forced to be redistricted into majority black districts. And to go from 102 seats to 100 and to keep the one competitive seat in the state Senate, huge victory here in Georgia. Tharon's absolutely right about the soul searching Democrats have to do. I'll leave that to him. But I will say this. Trump is the glue that has held together the Republican Party, but Trump is also the glue that has held together the Democratic Party, and Democrats have defined themselves as in opposition to him. They've got to find a broader vision going forward.
So there, a lot of people held the notion that a convicted felon could never, ever hold the office of the president. So what happens here in terms of the sanctity of the office and what happens to that vision?
Our justice system is going to be questioned. How certain people can get away with certain things and others can't is going to be amplified. Lisa, the fact that all those things that I can go down a list of 30 things of why I believe that Donald Trump should not have been elected as the next president. But apparently, the American voters, particularly a group of voters in key battleground states, didn't care about that. But before Lisa, we try to really understand the electric. I think that Brian said something that's so key here is that there has been a realignment, and there's been people who've been desensitized to holding our leaders to a certain standard. The standards that we held Kamala Harris to didn't apply to Donald Trump, apparently. And I'm so proud of this Harris Walls campaign. I mean, I go back to the date, Lisa, on July 21st. I mean, she had a very short window to run. And, I think about just to pivot here, I think about all of these young women and women just in general that have been texting me this morning since 5 a.m. who are so upset. And my message to them would be this, we will see a day in this country, I believe sooner than later, where a woman will be given an opportunity, especially if they've earned it and they deserve it and they have all the credentials and the credibility to be the president. Unfortunately, it's just not going to be in 2024. But you're right, absolutely, Lisa. The things that we attacked Donald Trump on, the things that we said about him, polling showed that a lot of these disaffected, college-educated white women weren't going to tolerate it. I can't tell you how many people told me that they didn't vote for him. Well, clearly that wasn't the case. And so it's got to be a realignment within the Democratic Party. But we got to take these next few weeks to listen and learn from our mistakes. And we're going to have to play the game differently. This sort of being very statesman-like and not willing to get down and dirty with Republicans and not attack them, and then also we got to not be viewed as too elitist. We got to go back to what we used to do as Democrats, fighting for working class, blue collar Americans, and we got to expand our coalition: Latino votes, LGBTQ voters. Of course, black men, black women, young people, Lisa. I mean, everyone has got to be at the table now as we move forward.
Brian, we've got 30 seconds. Talk about briefly, if you can, how this is a win for Brian Kemp and the Republican Party here in Georgia.
Well, Kemp went all in, pushed the ship to the center of the table, and everything came up aces for him. He's able to keep his strong majorities in the General Assembly, deliver a 120,000 vote margin for Donald Trump, which I don't think anybody really foresaw 2 months ago. Brian Kemp looks like the hero. He's in Donald Trump's good graces. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for him on the national stage should he desire it. I don't think he wants to run for U.S. Senate, but I definitely think he's put himself in a spot to be in Donald Trump's favor if he chooses to run for president in 2028, to at least not be in his way or opposed to Brian Kemp if he chooses to do that. Big night, big win for Brian Kemp, for Burke Jones, for Josh McCoon,
Got to get
for
out
John
of here.
Burns.
All right, thank you guys. The morning after.